BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, your daily whistle-stop tour through all the news you need to know. It's Friday the 24th of November, I'm Amy Canavan, and coming up today, at the centre of the storm.
Lewis gets up and heads it away, and there's a suggestion there that maybe he caught the Macedonian number 9 Miovski with an arm inside the penalty area, and he has gone down clutching his face.
As he prepares to face Rangers on Sunday after an eventful week, just how important is Bojan Miovski for Aberdeen? Also,
I think there's more to come, and that's the exciting thing.
He says he hopes to get booed, but what sort of reception will Craig Levein get on his return to Tynecastle? And
Me standing on the touchline, I want to see a team create chances, score goals, and that's what I hope to see.
We'll take a look at all the weekend's big fixtures and answer some of your questions.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Plenty coming up on today's podcast. I'm pleased to say I ain't riding solo through it all. Our chief sports writer, Tom English, joins me for it. How are you, Tom? You well?
I'm very well, Amy. Yes, thank you.
Good stuff, good stuff. Well, there's plenty more to come from Tom shortly, but before that, let's rattle through today's headlines. Leading expert Dr. Tom Smith has told the BBC that education is the answer to Scotland's growing pyrotechnics problem. It comes after the issue was discussed at a summit earlier this week. Motherwell manager Stuart Kettlewell has admitted that he'd love to bring Kevin Van Veen back to the club, but says any possible move would come down to money. Good news for Scotland, Kieran Tierney is back in training with Real Sociedad as he steps up his return from a lengthy injury. Sticking with Scots abroad, it's been disclosed that Aberdeen have a 15% sell-on clause for Bologna star Lewis Ferguson, who continues to be linked with a big money move to Juventus. And David Martindale has revealed that Livingston won a free winter training camp trip to Turkey after winning the Titanic Cup in Antalya during the World Cup break last year. The bad news is they had to pay for their own flights. Well, here's hoping for Livy's sake a big cash prize accompanied the esteemed Titanic Cup. Cheap flights don't come around often these days. Right, Tom, just briefly before we get to the action on the pyrotechnic issue, is education the answer?
It is if people want to be educated, Amy. There's been loads of studies on the dangers of pyrotechnics, but do the people who use them, do they care? I think from their side, they'll feel that this is the football establishment challenging fan culture, preaching at them. I'm not sure they'll be too bothered about these studies. I think it's part of the appeal for them is the illicit nature of pyrotechnics sneaking them in, and there's no deterrent. There's no real deterrent. These things are illegal, but nobody ever gets arrested. So education, yeah, but only if people are prepared to be educated.
Absolutely. Well, there's more from Dr. Tom Smith on the BBC Sport Scotland website. He's done an interview with our colleague Nick McFeet. Let's look ahead now to the weekend fixtures then. For many people, the fixture of the weekend comes Sunday. It's Aberdeen against Rangers midday at Pittodrie. What can we expect from the game, Tom?
Oh, blood and guts.
Always the same.
Always the same. I think it could be a terrific game. Obviously, the Dons are off the back of a pasting by Celtic. Rangers are in good form, but Aberdeen Pittodrie is going to be tricky for them. This will be a big test of Clement's mettle and this new Rangers team's mettle, or the new psychology in this Rangers team's mettle. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go. Aberdeen are a dangerous team. It doesn't always look like it, but they are capable of big results on big days, and this Sunday will be a big day.
It absolutely will. The Don striker, Bojan Miovski, he'll be hoping that he has a slightly better Sunday perhaps than he did Monday night. He's had quite the week. He found himself at the heart of the drama while playing for North Macedonia on international duty this week against England. And after Rico Lewis's challenge on him, it led to a controversial penalty being given against Gareth Southgate's side. It got even more embroiled in a bit of a social media spat with former England and Liverpool legend Jamie Carragher afterwards. Tom, I'm sure you'll have caught the little tete-a-tete on the timeline. Yeah. A little bit of humour during that international break. What have you made of Bojan Miovski's season so far? Just 4 goals in 11 Scottish Premiership games so far. Of course, he notched 16 last season. It's not only his numbers, though. You know, you mentioned earlier Aberdeen going through a little bit of a sticky spell. They're maybe a little bit weaker this year. But what's been the difference for you? Is it Miovski being starved service? Is he not as sharp? Is it the system? What's the problem?
Well,
here?
I mean, I think he's done well, Amy. You know, I mean, he's got 18 in all competitions. I think it was 18 last season. I think he's got 10 this season in all competitions. Scored 4 times in Don's 6 European games. Scored in 4 Euro games. Scored the goal that took them to the League Cup final. Won the penalty. Won in inverted commas that got North Macedonia a draw against England. I think he's doing well. I think if the Dons are suffering from the fact that they have to play all these games back to back, you know, their results after European games haven't been good. They're kind of get used to that culture. It's difficult for them. I think Miovski, strong player. I think the Dons were tested by a few unofficial bids towards the end of last season for him. I think they think they can break their transfer record whenever they do sell him. Not that they're in a hurry to sell him. So I think he's a very important player for them.
Absolutely. Well, let's see if he's an important player for North Macedonia as we bring in our journalist, Filip Mishov. Filip, thank you so much for joining us. What's been the fallout from the England game? What's been the reaction from the other night?
Talking about the England game and about Bojan Miovski, it has been a big one over here in Macedonia, filled with many England fans all over the capital or the last week. They liked the beer, the price of the beer, the atmosphere, and everything around it. And talking about the game, I believe it was a brave performance from Macedonia, although in a rather meaningless game maybe for both sides because England were already through and Macedonia was already eliminated. But still, it was a good performance for the players and the coach to build on from here. And talking about Miovski's performance, he maybe didn't have as many chances as he would have liked, but he still played a decent game.
Was that a penalty?
Yes. Even though I'm not a huge fan, I'm not a fan of VAR. It's a typical VAR penalty. You can just see a slap from Rico Lewis on Bojan Miovski, and he simply fell that. Then fall down and waited for VAR to look at the situation and to. But all in all, I believe maybe it influenced a bit the decision not to award Macedonia penalty a few minutes before that one when Harry Maguire put Elif Elmas down with both hands, which wasn't even looked by VAR. So all in all, we can talk about controversy and whether it should be or shouldn't be given, but I think the result was pretty fair. But in my honest opinion, I don't think England should play as bad as that against emerging nations if they are to beat the big nations at major tournaments.
Philip, there's some suggestions over here that I have heard that Miovski made some kind of gesture when he was playing for Aberdeen against PAOK in Aberdeen that really annoyed them, and that he was subjected to some abuse when he went over to Thessalonica in the return leg, some gesture referencing the feud between Greece and North Macedonia. Did you pick up on this at all? Was there any mention of this?
Well, the feud between Greece and Macedonia will always be there. Like maybe the countries have solved the dispute regarding the name, and I would say neither Greece nor Macedonian citizens are agreeing with it. And if you ask me, if you ask probably Bojan, he would say that he doesn't like the reference to North in the name, which was in that part of the agreement. And it is always going to be there, those little things, those little provocations. And but as I said, he had a very good game for Aberdeen against PAOK, and it probably motivated even more to do well against them.
You mentioned, Philip, that he played well there for Aberdeen. He was an absolute bargain for the Dons a few years ago, signing alongside Ilbar Ramadani from MTK Budapest. Just a combined fee of just over £600,000. Do you think he'll move on soon? What's the perception of Miovski back home? He's not played club football in North Macedonia for quite a while now.
Well, he's definitely highly regarded, but as you said, he has been in Hungary before Aberdeen, and the spotlight wasn't really on him because Goran Pandev was still in the national team and he was still playing. Also, the second best goal scorer in the national team is still there, which is Alexander Tynecastle, who scored the goal against Italy in Palermo. So I would say that Bojan Miovski is the natural heir to their throne. Like he is there to be for the next decade to lead the attacking line, and maybe he hasn't scored as much as he wants for the national team yet, but in all honesty, he has just started to establish himself within the first team, and that is one of the main reasons. And as for his future and as time at Pitodü, it has been nothing short of exceptional in my opinion. And when Bojan was about to move to Scotland and to Pitodü, I really thought that was the best move for him to make the next step, to develop, to go to a team where he can be the focal point of their attack, he can be the main striker, and he just did that. And I know for a fact that he had other offers which he rejected to go to Aberdeen, and I think he is very happy with that decision because he has now been there a couple of years, and probably if he wants to take the next step, that may be just around the corner.
Well, Philip, thank you very much for your time. And if you continue to tell the Scots that the beer prices are decent over there, you'll have an onslaught of Scottish fans coming over. It won't be the English, it'll be the Scottish next. Thank you so much for your time, Philip.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast.
Another game where there's sure to be an interesting atmosphere is at Tynecastle. Hearts against St Johnstone on Saturday at 3 o'clock. Both sides have seen improved form of late, and Saints manager Craig Levein has been in the headlines as he says he hopes he gets booed on his return to Tynecastle. Tom, you know Craig a little bit. I don't know, maybe you've been to Tynecastle with him in a punditry sense?
I have. I think I have.
You have, yes?
Yes.
You must have been over the years.
Have to
do you
have
think he will get booed come Saturday?
Probably. If St Johnstone are leading, he'll definitely get booed. I think everyone will get booed if St Johnstone are leading. You know what? I think no matter what happens, Amy, Levein will have been on the end of worse at Tynecastle as Hearts manager, as Hearts director of football. Booing won't bother him. In fact, I think he'll bask in it. Why the Hearts fans would want to boo, I don't know. This is a club legend. He's one of them, man and boy. He'll always be Hearts. So I think those who boo, and there probably will be boos, and some of it could be, just comical pantomime stuff, they'll have short memories. But it will not faze Craig Levein one iota. I think you'll see a big smile if the boos start ringing around Tynecastle.
As you say, there might be boos around Tynecastle no matter what. On the flip side, no performances have slightly improved. There was results against Livingston and Motherwell, so pressure on Stephen Naismith has relaxed a little bit before the break. But our listener Graham asked that I would ask this question of you, Tom, and I will deliver. Graham has been critical at times of Stephen Naismith, and he was wanting to ask, is the criticism of him justified, or does he just need time?
I think the criticism has been justified. I think some of it can go over the score, as it always does. But I think the criticism has been justified. I think some of his tactical stuff has been weird. Some of his substitutions have been weird. Some of his comments have been weird. It's a high-pressure job. I think a lot of people who criticise Stephen Naismith think he shouldn't have got the job in the first place. That he was just, a terrific player, obviously, but just didn't have enough of a background in management, any background in management, really. So when you look at it, the last time Hearts won 2 in a row in the league was in January. They only did it twice all last season. That was only partly on Naismith, of course. They haven't won 2 in a row in the league this season. So he desperately needs a win. It's a tough, I think St Johnstone will present a tough task for them. But, Naismith has a squad there, if you get them fit, to get him challenging hard for third. I think that's what's expected. And if it's not delivered, then he will be judged harshly.
Absolutely. Well, you can catch all of that on Sports Sound on Saturday. And of course, you can hear more from Craig Levein in the Sacked in the Morning podcast on BBC Sounds. The latest episode with Neil Warnock is an absolute cracker, if I do say so myself. Elsewhere in the top flight this weekend, Celtic host Motherwell, Hibs travel up to Dens to take on Dundee. Ross County host Kilmarnock as Derek Adams makes his return to the Dingwall dugout, and St Mirren host Livingston. What jumps out for you there, Tom? As I mentioned there, Derek Adams back again and again and again in the Dingwall dugout.
Yep, absolutely. That does jump out at me, Amy. Ross County v Killie, Derek v Derek. And Killie's away form, awful away form. Can they do anything about that? Ross County, you look at Ross County, and this is kind of the league in microcosm here. Ross County are in 11th. They're only 4 points off Killie, who are in 6th, and they have a game in hand. So things can flip very quickly. If Ross County beat Killie at the weekend, things flip very quickly. And it's a tough one to call that, especially with Kilmarnock's home form, especially with the Derek Adams bounce. I think he will do well at Ross County. He's very comfortable at that club.
He absolutely is. Right now then, let's get to some of your questions. Keep sending in your emails to scottishfootball@bbc.co.uk. Comments, questions, anything, any subject, always welcome. Tom reads them all night long. So let's get to some of them while we have a little bit of time here. Let's start with Jason Coogans. He has been in touch to ask, I'm interested what you'll say on this one, Tom. Do you think young footballers are overcoached? He goes on to say, we don't have the Jimmy Johnstons, Kenny Douglases and Davy Cooper street players of old.
I don't think they're overcoached. I don't. I mean, the Jimmy Johnstons, the Kenny Douglases, you're never going to get them again, right? These were world-class players and once-in-a-lifetime players, So I think pining for those days when it was all street football, we constantly talk about it and how it produced these kind of natural footballers. That's gone. I don't know. Without going into every club to see if kids are overcoached, I don't know. But look, there's some good kids coming through in Scotland. The Scotland national team has been in its best place for, since 1998. So let's just kind of savor the moment a little bit. And there are some good ones coming through. Not as many, of course, but overcoached. I don't know. I don't. It doesn't feel like it to me.
That's us for today. My thanks to Tom English and Philip Miovski. And thank you for listening. Stick with BBC Scotland for all the football this weekend. Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland will have live coverage of all the games, and Sports Scene on the BBC Scotland channel has all your highlights. Scottish Cup Sports Scene tonight at 7:30. We'll have a live coverage of the Fife Derby. That will be a cracker. Talking of which, have a little listen to this.
I started off by persuading my father to take me to the New Year's match between East Fife and Raith Rovers. And I still remember the team, Drummond, Polin, Mockin, Young, McNaughton, Leigh. And then it was McEwen, Copeland, Kelly, Williamson and Urquhart. And I still remember that. And then Jim Baxter comes along, and of course he disrupts that team because he is such a great player.
We'll have a special episode out later today of a wide-ranging interview with former Prime Minister, we don't get many of them on often, Gordon Brown, talking about his love of Raith Rovers. And remember, you can get us wherever you get your podcasts, so if you haven't done so already, just search for the Scottish Football Podcast and hit subscribe. Until next time, enjoy your weekend, enjoy your football, and bye-bye for now.
Just a quick word to say the Scotland Rugby podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English for everything you need to know about the world of Scottish rugby. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby podcast.